Good morning, it's Pastor Aaron, and this morning we are continuing our study on the book of Proverbs. Today, starting at verse 8 and going all the way through verse 19 of chapter 1, here's God's word. Hear, my son, your father's instruction, and forsake not your mother's teaching, for they are a graceful garland for your head and pendants for your neck. So we'll stop here just a moment and talk about it. He mentions the father and the mother, principally because Solomon here is using a convention of the day, which is that you ought to honor your parents. In particular, though, as we read Proverbs and we talk about the father and the mother, understand that Solomon is assuming parents who honor the Lord, parents who would give teaching that reflects faith in God. And that's important to understand, because many people will approach today's passage not having had the experience of Christian parents. And for you, I would say this: do remember that within the church, your church family is family every bit as much as biological family. And even if you didn't have a biological mother and father who taught you in the Lord, yet, if you're a part of the church, there are people that you can consider mother and father in the Lord, people whom you respect, people whose teaching has helped you. So I want to keep that in mind as we read this. Notice what he says about the father and mother's teaching. He says that it's like a garland for the head and a pendant for the neck. A garland would have been a symbol of victory, a pendant, a symbol of luxury. And so what he's saying is we need to regard the godly teaching of parents as something which will enhance and better the life of those who listen to that teaching, of those who receive that teaching. And so, the call is for us, as we hear godly teaching from parents, to regard it as something precious, to regard it as something to take in. Now we're going to see the contrast in today's passage, and this is important as well. As you read any proverb, do understand a lot of times the author of the Proverbs is making a contrast. And so as we talk about godly wisdom here in today's passage, realize the specific godly wisdom that he is speaking about as he does this little section is the wisdom that is in contrast to what we're about to read, which is this, starting at verse 10. My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, lie in wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without reason. Like Sheol, let us swallow them alive, and whole like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all precious goods. We shall fill our houses with plunder. Throw in your lot among us. We will have one purse. So he's urging the son to be careful about those who would try to entice him with dishonest gain. The image is of a group of young men who are going to be robbers, who are going to waylay innocent people and take their goods, plunder them. But we shouldn't just restrict it to that specific circumstance. Dishonest gain of all sorts is always a temptation, and it's a temptation because it's easy wealth. It gives the promise of quick wealth, right? And so that is what the temptation is. And notice then what he says about this temptation, starting at verse 15. My son, do not walk with them. Hold back your foot from their paths. For their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. So the instruction that the parents give in regard to this temptation to get dishonest gain, there's actually two little instructions here that he gives. He says, don't walk with them in their paths. And then he says to hold back their foot from their ways. So understand there's several things that he probably means by this. Throughout Proverbs, when you hear about a path or a way. It's talking about a lifestyle, honestly. And so he's saying, don't make that a lifestyle, a lifestyle of trying to take advantage of other people, of trying to take what's not yours so that you can get gain. He's saying that keep back your foot from that. But he also says, don't walk with such people in the way. And so what he is also saying here is that we would be wise to avoid people who do make that their lifestyle. We should be cautious that there are people who want to tempt us, and if we listen and follow them, then our ways will be their ways, and our lives will turn out like their lives, and it's not a good thing. And then here at the end, the parent gives us some more instruction about this dishonest gain. Starting at verse 17, for in vain is a net spread in the sight of any bird, but these men lie in wait for their own blood. They set an ambush for their own lives. Such are the ways of everyone who is greedy for unjust gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. And so what he does here is to paint an image. During that time, a typical way to hunt for birds was to spread a net for them. And he says, it would be foolish to spread a net in the sight of a bird. No bird would fly underneath that net, seeing that you've set it there. He says, but people who try for dishonest gain don't recognize that they're spreading a net for themselves. And really, the one in the end who gets the bad end of the stick when it comes to this getting of dishonest gain is the person who gets it. And this is largely because he says it takes away the life of its possessor. Gain that is gotten dishonestly, he says, takes away the life of its possessor. And it does this probably in a number of ways. One, it puts a stigma on that person for the rest of their life. They're known as a thief. Two, it puts them in constant danger of either personal retribution or legal retribution. Jail tends to take away a person's life, and not just for the period of the jail sentence. A lot of times, even afterwards, people who have been to jail for having been dishonest find their lives limited in a lot of ways. Hard to get another job, hard to find new friends, hard to find people who trust you. Dishonest gain takes away your life. And ultimately, for the person who doesn't know God and never seeks his mercy, dishonest gain is one of those things that in the end will weigh us down before the seat of judgment. Sin that has gone unpardoned during this life has no pardon when it comes to the day of judgment. And that's important to remember. God's people shouldn't be taking sin lightly. God's people need to be aware of sin, to be wary of sin, and acknowledging the fact that it even has the possibility of tempting God's people to do the wrong thing and to flee it. And that's really the whole purpose of this passage. The wisdom that, like a garland, can grace the lives of those who listen to it for today's passage is to not walk in the way of those who would seek dishonest gain, because it takes away the life of those who have it. There is God's wisdom for us for today from his word. Lord bless you all. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.